Hi, and welcome to this very special studio session on the Emporium Facebook page, the Emporium Creative Hub's Facebook page. My name's Tamara Marwood. I am the director of a consulting creative agency called Create Business, and I'm very pleased to be here with you. First of all, before we get going, I'm going to do an acknowledgement to country, and I've got three fantastic guests to introduce to you. The Emporium Creative Hub acknowledges the traditional owners, the Dja Dja Wurrung people, on whose land we meet, share, work and create. We pay our respects to elders and leaders, present and emerging, for they hold the memories, the traditions, the culture and hopes of all Dja Dja Wurrung peoples. Hi, welcome everybody. So good to have you here.
Hello.
Hello. So our studio session today is talking with First Nations peoples about their cultural, creative and enterprising practice here in regional Victoria, and I'm just so thankful and grateful and excited to have you all here. I'd like to introduce Mick Harding. Hey Mick.
Wawagi.
Mick is an artist and business owner, and you're going to have to jump in if I pronounce your business name wrong, Mick. Ngarga Warendj.
It's Ngarga Warendj. It means dancing wombat in my language. Yeah.
Ngarga Warendj.
That's right.
Welcome. Rodney Carter. I have you as a producer and artist of Lifeway items and artifacts. Hey, Rodney.
Thank you. Very robust.
I just adore the notion of Lifeway items. I can't wait to get talking about that. And also Janet Bromley. Hi, Janet.
Hello.
Janet is a recent visual arts master graduate, artist, and an Emporium Creative Hub advisory group member.
I am.
And welcome also to our audience on Facebook who are joining us. Love to hear from you using the comments function in Facebook. You are more than welcome to join in the conversation, ask questions and share your opinions. And if you've got a creative enterprise that you'd like us to know about and the other people here, please share it. That's what we're all about, is building a great community for one another. I'm just going to go through the formalities of doing an introduction, reading out the artist bios. Again, you're going to have to forgive me and jump in, Mick. Mick Harding is from Yolong Barambak.
Yolong Belek.
Clans of the Turungarung people.
Yeah, it's a Yolong Baluk, Nadarak, Baluk, and although it looks like it says Tanarong, which a lot of people say, it's actually Takung Wurrung.
Stunning. Thank you.
Me? Oh,
yes.
You shouldn't have.
It's a beautiful language. Now, Mick, I've taken his bio and written it up, but Aboriginal art in Victoria is unique in its symbolism. It links with our stories and songlines like fingers reaching out into other areas of Australia. When Mick creates something, he expresses his cultural integrity in place with respect to his interpretation of his culture and shares his story as an Aboriginal man from his traditional country. Mick states, "We are the first peoples of this land and have an ongoing responsibility to keep our culture alive and relevant in our current society. We belong to this land." Janet Bromley is a Yorta Yorta artist who grew up in South Gippsland. She's a mum to 2 children and a grandmother of mother children. She spent most of her life living in Melbourne, working, bringing up children and making art for fun. In 2014, she applied to La Trobe University in Bendigo to study a Bachelor in Creative Art. We're very glad you did that, Jenna. After studying classes and lectures, she soon found, rather than painting being her main strength, she discovered it was making, building to tell stories. When she started university, she realised this was an opportunity to explore the issues she had seen in her life as a grandchild of a stolen generation person, her nan, and a career in mental health and welfare. Issues like displacement, loss, heritage, separation from family, place and country, and how people become invisible in our society. Using traditional methods of gathering and weaving, she makes with upcycled clothing, plastic waste, found objects and bush materials to weave and build, telling the stories in her small works and large installations. And Rodney, I will share your formal bio as well before we get into our conversations. Rodney Carter is a descendant of the Dja Dja Wurrung and Yorta Yorta people and resides in Bendigo in Central Victoria. He currently works for his people, the Dja Dja Wurrung, as the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Dja Dja Wurrung Clans Aboriginal Corporation and the Dja Dja Wurrung Enterprises Proprietary. Rodney has got an extensive career working in the cultural and museum sector, which I had no idea about. Very exciting to learn. And he was the creator of the first reed spear since contact over 150 years and the bark burial container for the funerary exhibition and research and narrator of the Shields and Baskets exhibition. It must have been an incredible body of work to be part of. Thank you for joining us. Rodney, your work is currently on show at the Bendigo Art Gallery as part of the Pimpinimi show. And I was so surprised to learn that you are an artist. I've just known you so much with your work in local government, and so exciting to find out that you produce Lifeway items. I think that concept is just extraordinary and conjures up so much meaning for me. What is a Lifeway artist?
I think sorry, didn't mean to catch you off tomorrow. A Lifeway item is a different or an unusual way to describe what the normal person, and I'll say normal in terms of the masses, would say is a form of bushcraft knowledge or survival knowledge. But for a lot of First people, in terms of using natural items around them, and I would also say in a traditional aspect, we could do that today with what is at hand and is present. We turn forms of creativity and or necessity to make things. So if I think for my people, and I like to explain that our origins are ancient, and that's a beautiful way to describe our people, as opposed to others saying that we're prehistoric people. That's another story, and that's a global story, as opposed to the evolution of my people's culture. So we're the finest craftspeople of stone tools in the world, and that can be seen over many tens of thousands of years. As Janet will probably touch on later, some of the finest weavers in the world, and as Mick will probably touch on in terms of wood crafting and those other types of elements. So they're just some simple examples. I think that's what Lifeway items are. So for me, I guess in trying to add some authenticity in my own values around my culture, it was important to make stone tools. It was important to weave. It was important to learn how to to snare, to hunt, to gather, to do those things. And that drove me actually, oh, for goodness sakes, I've got to make some things, because humans are an amazing thing. We make tools, and when we make tools, it makes our life a bit better. And I just think for art, or arts in its broadest sense, I see my people as being forms of providers of knowledge and beauty, and the storytellers through form, different forms. And I just think that's amazing.
It is amazing.
Tamara?
Yeah.
Tamara, he's neglecting it to tell you that he can sing and dance as well.
Well, thank you for making sure we knew that, Mick. You know, I think what I was really hoping to touch on as well, and this just could be my total ignorance, but my way of thinking about, you know, I imagine like these lifeway items are very practical, but also connected to journey of life and connected to time of life. And that is something that I find, I guess, also as someone who has, you know, practiced art, or also, you know, being who I am, you know, in charge of a family, so to speak, where you are taking people through times of life. That, would you say that lifeway items are connected to people's journey, and even a universal journey?
Yeah, I think so. It can be even deeper, I think, with the reclamation of culture and us looking at historical artifact types material for our people. What's inarguable is the creators, our ancestors, created those objects for purpose. And for us to be present today, no matter who other finds these things curious and collects them, they're actually been created for us, their descendants. And that's why then objects in all artifacts in all the forms, even art, can only be more fully communicated actually by the creator of the art. What's embedded in your heart and mind. And I think when we do things, we're probably a little bit driven, but we do it because we must do it. We are inherently creators. And then, you know, you find things that you're a little bit more interested in, probably, you know, more capable, you know, and then we go on those journeys through forms in art. So I think unusually art is timeless. And I think also what's really unusual, and it becomes challenging because it almost becomes philosophy, it's not constrained spatially either. So we're an object, if we're culturally connected to it. I'll give you an example where things have been taken from us and they reside at museums and galleries, collections around the world. They cannot sever a complete disconnectedness from us as a people. The objects are us, and we're the objects. We're timelessly connected to our ancestors, and I think that's brilliant, and something going forward for our mobs to educate others. That's a part of who we are.
That connection through object is a wonderful thing to share and acknowledge. And it just makes me think what Janet was talking. Well, when I was reading out her bio, when she's making storytelling is a big part of that. Is that something for you when you're making lifeway items as well? Like, is that connection not only to that physical form, but also other stories and other peoples and land? What's happening for you while you are making?
I think there's I'd love to hear from Janet and Mick sort of about this, but there's a moment where I need the hand-eye coordination, the focus on an immediate task. I think somewhere more loosely and creatively in my mind, it was almost like flowing water. What's actually going on in forms of other knowledge, conversations, and creativity. And I wouldn't think that is immediately a distraction, but it would connect, I would think, sporadically, probably knowledge with the object or the task immediately at hand. I try and simply describe it's thoughtfulness and mindfulness, and that's the power, I think, of getting older, wiser, and being able to show someone is the mindfulness to be able to turn things to reflective type thinking.
And also what you know, first when we first started getting to know your making a bit more, is you talked about the craft and the skill and the technique, and of course over time that becomes something deeper and intricate as well. Has that something in your journey you've been able to experience?
Yeah, it's unusual, Tamara. I don't think I've necessarily, if I place values on myself, necessarily improved. There's been some repetitive type activities I've done, and if I think of, again, hand-eye coordination, muscle memory in that, there's an element of that, and that can be transferable to any task we do as human. When we push some boundaries around that, and we're happy and comfortable to be challenged, that can bring out new forms, new ways of, doing things.
Thank you.
Tamara, can I just,
yes.
Rodney asked about our opinions on that, and
absolutely.
Just to, I suppose, share with you that in the sense of that fluidity that Rodney was talking about. So I started off working with wood, and then afterwards I found that one of our stories talked about how men were made from wood or from bark, and women are made from mud. So there's like Rodney said, there's this really deep, really philosophical relationships, not just to things, but to other living beings, if you want.
Yep, absolutely.
Something, and we're close tied to it.
Thank you, Mick. Did you want to add something as well, Janet?
Oh, I agree. I can't even number how many times I've been making and gone off on a tangent on ending up with something that I didn't intentionally start with. That happens a lot, and there are some things that in my gut, I know I'm not allowed to do. It's a very strong thing with me, and the wood is one of them. Got two really nice pieces of wood out the front, and I'm just sitting looking at them thinking, what am I going to do with them now? I have to give them to somebody because I'm not allowed. No, I don't know why, but I've got really strong instincts about what I'm allowed to and what I'm not allowed to do. And I accept that, and I just go by that, because I think that if it's strong enough to make me stop and stand still and say, what am I doing, then I shouldn't be doing it. So, and it's not, and from someone like, I'm sitting here looking like the little white lady from stepped out of England. So as a stolen generation, you're very much not allowed to be Aboriginal, not allowed to talk about it. It's the big secret. When you get older, often, not everybody I've talked to, but we always knew we were Aboriginal, and now I know that everybody knew we were as well. So there were things that we did as children and as we got older that I see as things that we brought forth through our mum and my grandmother, that are natural ways of making, and they just came, So I'm rambling now. I'm rambling now.
It's such a gift. It's such a gift to connecting with those women in your life, Janet.
Yeah.
And that sort of leads me back into my last question for you, Rodney, is that I know you have such a public life. You're a very important leader in our community, and thank you for all you give.
I'm an introvert.
Me too. But the thing is, the practice that you're talking about and the connection to culture and the responsibility and the listening, that all takes time. And we are in a culture and a time that is, it's online, it's, deadlines and, bureaucracy. How do you balance that sort of fineness and that listening with the busyness that is contemporary life?
I probably not necessarily I'm the most healthiest person in the world, but I'm not dramatically unhealthy. I think I don't probably afford myself what I would spiritually sort of need with my culture, and the way and I'm not tragic, although others might think I am sometimes. I'm for some reason really good at the management, executive, administrative stuff, and when I began doing some corporate work at Museum Victoria, actually when it corporatised, I seen I could actually do some of that stuff really well, but I wasn't necessarily enjoying it, and unusually then I seen, other people are benefiting and getting sort of a kick out of it. So then you think, well, if you want to do good outcomes for people, you're true to, I think, the principles of good leaders, which I believe make the greatest sacrifice, then you do that. You become present and you do, the work that you need to do. And in saying that, you become not subconsciously, but you need to be a bit distant from your mob to align and have focused outcomes to get outcomes, and that's where I've sort of landed in my life, and have been too absent from the crafting and stuff that I probably find really enjoyable and spiritually fulfilling. The recent art I did around a cloak and using older ancient type symbology, embedding it and putting that story into a cloak was so exhausting emotionally for me. Artistically, it was sort of easy to do, and I think my art, if I use an example, is raw in terms of fine line art and that sort of stuff, and I'm okay in that space sort of doing it, but I didn't want to give it away at the end of it, and I cried all over the cloak to put some of my spirit into the cloak, so the cloak's journey's safe, and I didn't necessarily learn to do that. I like to think it's not that wacky, crazy out there, but it just shows how I think our spirit and who we are as people and what we do is complex.
I think that emotional thing, there are things you're emotional about and there are things you're not emotional about. But if you are emotional about it, it's really, really strong. And it's that's the time when you're doing something from your heart and from the ones just standing here behind you. I saw your cloak. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Can I just say that from my perspective, that kind of stuff fills my battery up. It sort of makes you feel fresh and new again. So and I love it. I love the idea that you've done something like that, Rodney, because it really says there's really something of you in the cloak. But maybe one day someone will be able to lift that teardrop off the cloak and and do a DNA test on it and say, oh, I know who that was.
That's true.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you so much for our guests who are contributing to the Facebook conversation. Margot from the Art Gallery, she's acknowledging your work, Rodney, and in our community, and thanks you. And is enjoying your work that's on show at the Art Gallery at the moment. And Dave Hughes, hello. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And also Kelly Boucher, who is really enjoying the conversation as well. Talking about how you are in relation with the world, materials, country, story making. And this worldview offers a way to think otherwise, which is so true. That's what I'm enjoying as well. These sorts of conversations are far in between. Yes, Janet, I'm going to deviate a little bit from my script. Can you move your screen around? Where are you today? So jealous.
I'm in my lounge room. That's at the back.
I thought you were in your new studio space.
Oh, no. No, I'm not in there. No, I'm at home. At home.
Well, let's pretend you're there. Tell me about this new studio space in Bendigo. What's happening?
So for me, it's a really good place because now that I'm not going to university, I don't have a studio there. So it's a really good place to go. I find it difficult to make at home, and having this come along when it did was just perfect. Came just perfect. So I moved out of that studio into this studio. So I'm upstairs in the Beehive. So I think the story is that the rooms upstairs are where you went to sell your gold. And an old fella who came in to have a look the other day told me then you went downstairs, and as you went out the front door there was a bar, so you could spend your money before you got onto the street. So it's a whole it's actually, they're quite small offices, and I don't know why the building's been built like it is. It's a really unusual building, and it's got a skylight. There's a huge skylight that runs down the centre of the building.
It's extraordinary little piece.
It's just amazing, and it's like, why did they do that? I have no idea. So apparently, I remember when it was Allen's Walk, there were shops and office spaces like all downstairs. Well, they're not there anymore, so the whole bottom is completely open.
Amazing.
And also, Rodney, for those future things where people can come to something and they have to social distance, perfect spot, because it's a really big place, like for NAIDOC and those types of things, because you'll be able to social distance in there really easily. So they've done all of that downstairs. There's one office space still there, and upstairs there's just separated into not separated, they originally their rooms, and at each end there's a large room. At the front I believe it was the billiard room. We're going to have workshops in the billiard room, and people who are in the building we will be able to do workshops for each other, but then we'll also be able to bring people in and to paying people to come in and do workshops in that room as well, and we'll all be able to run it at different times. And the other end is very nice, and it's got a big hole in the middle of the floor with railings around it. Perfect place for a really posh dinner, I reckon.
Well, look forward to you cooking, Janet.
What am I cooking? No, I'm past doing that. I'll be sitting and wait.
I'm just going to shift a little bit. I really want to hear a bit more about your practice. And well done on completing your master's and landing a gorgeous studio space, which in our chat we've had a few people looking forward to, touring it and joining in your workshops. I also understand that you recently completed a public art project at Bendigo Senior.
Yes, that's something I did on a voluntary basis. I've done a few different projects. With schools, I love working with schools. I love being around the young people. It's at Bendigo Senior. There have been at times young people who who didn't know who their family were, who haven't had connection to people to give them some, even some courage to talk about themselves or to boost their confidence in being able to talk about themselves. And for somehow when you, I've got a theory on this, but somehow when you're with young people making and creating, it's the perfect time to talk about how do they want to express themselves as an Aboriginal person. And do they want to express themselves as an Aboriginal person? Because that's a conversation you have to have as well. It's their journey, so they need to make a choice. But it did go on for a little bit of a long time, and of course we've had COVID in the middle of it. So there's an area at the school where there was a piece of concrete put down which has been mosaicked, and it's fish going through. A group of young people doing horticulture came and did the garden, and we've got some weaving reeds in there, which is really good. And then on the back wall, there's been an ochre painting put up on the back wall of that. And it's just such an amazing experience to be. I like doing those sort of things, and I love it. It looks fantastic. But the interacting with young people in that sort of space, and being able to give them an opportunity to have a little bit of a talk about something that maybe they don't even talk about sometimes at home. Like how do I find out how am I, will I ever be able to find out where I come from or who my people are? There's all these stories, and I don't know how to do those things, because sometimes it becomes too hard in families. And from my own experience, it's very hard to track people down. You have to have your ears open all the time. Once you've got some information, it's always goes forward to more information. So once they get a little bit of help about, how they can find out things, I just love that stuff. It's lovely.
Thank you so much for giving your time to our community and young people to make this body of work, Jenna. And I'm just so pleased
they let me go and help them. So
that was great. I am running a little bit behind time, but I just wanted to ask, I'm just going to move into the enterprising or the, establishing yourself as an artist and a leader in our community. When we talked on the phone, you made a very deliberate decision to network and step up as a leader in your cultural practice, and which you just described, taking on positions as a volunteer. What was the drive for this? And for your practice and your community?
When I first went to university, I thought, if I don't get to know people, because I'm not from Bendigo for starters, but if I don't go out and meet people and network, I will have gone and done this for no reason. There'll be no purpose to it. I don't have the networks here. I don't know people. And I thought networking was the way to introduce myself to the art community, but also then develop ways of connecting my art or what I was doing with what was current and what was, I guess, in some ways acceptable. And the other thing
and
was,
there was something else.
Oh, the network.
No, you're very surprised that Bendigo didn't have.
Oh, no Aboriginal art gallery. Oh, I was really, I still am. I can't believe that it's not a money gain. People who want to make money, I don't know why they don't have something up here in Bendigo, because we have so many tourists. There should be somewhere between the gallery and the train station. People walk past, see our stuff in there and buy it. I believe. I just think that it really surprised me, and I thought, I can do two things with one effort: network and talk about Aboriginal art, and why isn't it not here? How come it's not here? It's like the amazement of my little girl 3-year-old head saying, why don't you do that?
I think that's a question that needs to be asked, and with the time for us as a community to stand up and answer it.
Absolutely.
That's so nice. That's beautiful, Janet. That 3-year-old, I love that. I love it.
You know, it was it seems so simple to me, and it seems that there is the opportunity to have an industry and a business in Aboriginal art. And I got asked at university by someone the very first time. She was going home to America in the next 2 days, and where can I get some Aboriginal art? And I said, go to Melbourne, because we can't do that in 2 days here. So yes, that's always been it's always been my conversation. Some people think, oh my God, she's talking about it again. But no, and also our children need to see those sort of things as well. You know, the same as when you hear young people who finally see someone from their own culture on television. You know, it's a really big thing for young people to know that there's Aboriginal people out in the community selling art or working some. It's a really big way to help children to have a pathway to the future, to know that that's happening.
Well, I think what's beginning to happen at the Beehive will be a great momentum towards that. And thank you, Janet. Mick, I've got a very open question for you, and you've been so fabulous just waiting. I know you're probably dying to jump in. Tell me about your artistic practice and what it means for you as an Indigenous man.
Oh, look, geez, I could go in all kinds of tangents.
I know.
You know, I suppose to put some relevance to it immediately, I'm sitting in a motel in Kyneton, and I'm talking to you guys, and I've got all my art stuff with me. When I was doing my masters a few years back, people started telling me that I was the motel artist, and so I reflected on that, and they were so true. And in fact, I wrote a poem about my own experience. I haven't got it with me, unfortunately, but I wrote an experience about it, and I love. You know what I love about it? Just about this is it's my brand new studio. No one can bother me. I can turn the TV on and it's background noise, and I can sit here and I can wander off into some sort of space and draw something. So all underneath the desk where I'm sitting here is all my art material. So when I finish today talking to you, I'll probably start doing some more drawing. So that's one sort of thing. And you know, it started. It probably started with wood. It started with a boomerang arm that was gifted to me from a local guy in Gippsland called Russell Mullet, of which Rodney would know who I'm talking about. We seen him yesterday, actually, or the day before, I should say. And what I did was I began to shape this boomerang, and then I took it back to Russell and I said, oh, what does it look like? And he said, oh, yeah, a bit heavy. You need to take a bit out of it here and there and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, we got to the end and I had a boomerang and it worked. And I could throw it out and it would sort of come back to me, you know, in a fashion. And so that was the beginning of making artefacts. But I suppose to put some framework around it, I spent about 15, 20 years prior to that working in cultural heritage. And so it was certainly, the thing that informed me was certainly the tangible stuff. But I was on the phone on my way up here and I was talking to someone and I said, in fact, you know, I think for us, the intangible stuff is the most important stuff. It's the, you know, it's the stuff that makes our, I suppose, makes our heart sing. And it's those things like what Rodney said about, you know, he talked about muscle memory and stuff like that. And when I was doing this stuff in the early days, you know, I just said to myself, I want to create something that's really high standard, really shows us off as not just the first storytellers of this country, but that we could step up to the plate in a modern world and create something that was old with new tools and produce something with both, you know, quality item, but the same kind of stories that our old people have left for us to share. So and look, I could just keep waffling.
I know. That's just such a tiny little bit of your story, Mick, and you've got so much to share. You all have, and this is the quickest interview I've ever done because we're going to be finishing up in 80 minutes. But not only, Mick, are you practicing and, you know, set yourself to put your toes up to the mark and say, this is who I am, and I'm making the best I can, and I am, you know, showing what my culture and community has in this contemporary world. But also you have set yourself up in an enterprise that offers a diversity of products and services. And, you know, what I really love as well is that you've set it up in a way that is generating a turnover and gives you space to do what I'm calling R&D or play. Congratulations.
Yes.
What's the secret?
Oh, look, you know, I think the secret is persistence. Persistence in, like I said before, about getting better at a particular thing. Persistence at believing in yourself. Persistence in taking risks. Persistence in doing thinking that one day, you know, in the whole 15 odd year journey, that one day I'll have enough money in the bank to not worry about next month's bills, because I'll be able to pay those bills. Like I might have, you know, that 15 years ago when I worked in whatever space I work in. And so that was the sort of, I suppose, you know, the driver around that. Look, you know, along the journey, there's been some times where I've said to my wife, I've said, you know, look, if we don't raise enough money in the next few weeks, it's out looking for a job, you know. But I'm fortunate enough to have a good wife behind me, who's pretty deadly in her own right. Look, she's done, prior to meeting her, she's been doing, you know, sort of farmers market type things for years. And in fact, her and her mother did it for, I don't know, 20 or 30 years maybe. And so I've got all that sort of knowledge and experience. And so she brings that to the business and then starts to think about how we can create new products with my design work on or in it, and then see how we go taking it to market. You know, take a risk. You know, spend $10 and see if it'll make 20 for you, and or spend 10 grand and see if it'll make 20 grand for you. You know,
Yes.
it just sort of it grows. You know, the risk around that kind of stuff just sort of grows, and you get a little bit more experienced at that kind of stuff. But look, also as a business, you know, I'm always really conscious about ethics, and about trying to be ethical. And then, because from time to time you get contacted by people, and if I think they're trying to get me to compromise my ethics, and when I say ethics, it's about my, I suppose, cultural integrity, if you will. Um, that I have to think about that sort of stuff and make decisions. And look, maybe I've made some bad decisions, and maybe some people think that I'm not so ethical, and that's okay. But I mean, I have to live with myself, I suppose. And I think I'm doing okay. And well, the other thing I just wanted to add was, I think we were talking prior to being on the screen here, and it was about collaboration and stuff. When I did my masters, the idea was that I would do my masters and I would leave something of myself behind in a record for my two sons. And in fact, what happened along the journey is they become part of the masters, and they actually participated in it. And so I was going to do a PhD on a much grander scale with this kind of thing. But I've said to myself, I don't need to do a PhD for this. I can actually just, collaborate with some other artists in other fields and get some grants and stuff, and build this bigger than life. So the thing I'm just starting out on is a kind of animation, an animation piece which has artwork and all that involved in it. But hopefully it'll be my community, my cousins, my extended family, the other families within our group will actually join with me, and we'll do it together, and we'll own it, as a journey piece, I suppose, as a piece where we will have a memory of, and it'll be recorded so other people can see it and all that kind of stuff as well. And I think the other part about this too is I'm really interested in how we record our own experiences and the things that we do in a modern context, by video or audio or whatever, however it might be recorded, because of what invasion or colonisation has afforded us in some loss of things, some intricate things. But we're reclaiming those kinds of things and turning them into who we are today in the modern world. And I'm really interested to make sure that we do a good job of recording for our people of the future.
Well, I've got to say, I'm just honoured to have the opportunity to share your story and journey. And I hope there's opportunity beyond this to continue that. Just on that topic of collaboration, which is something I didn't prepare for, but I think, it would be interesting to hear from yourself, Rodney and Janet, about, what collaboration might mean to sustain your practice and cultural connections.
It's been interesting because I did the last 6 months of my masters alone because of COVID, so it's completely separate. And I've been sitting here thinking all the time, this is what our people are about. For tens of thousands of years, we've used creativity to communicate right across Australia. Dance, song, mark making. This is the essence of who we are as people. And I believe that's why it's so strong in us to make. And it doesn't matter which part we're making. And it was a bit, in some ways, almost horrific having to finish my masters like that. I got myself into a very big state because there was none of that community going on. There was everything. I mean, it's great to be a new modern person doing Zoom and all of those sort of things, but having a yarn out the back and sitting under a tree and stuff like that is a way better way to be connecting to other people. And I think there needs to be a lot more collaboration amongst Aboriginal people right across all sorts of things. I love I love anything modern. I've done projection work. I dabble in anything because it's another way for me to be able to speak and say what I want to say. And I think that idea of yours, Mick, is awesome. It'll be beautiful. Very, very lovely thing.
Yeah, well, I wished I could probably share with you what it is, but look, I'm working on. So far, I've got what have I got? I've got I think I've got 24 drawings, A2 black and white drawings that landscape-wise butt up together. So they extend together. So what I'm going to do is get them scanned. So there'll be a landscape, this really long landscape with this sort of animation.
Awesome.
Moving across it. And our people will be the people that are going across it. And I'm helping a guy out, a young guy that I met through the Willen Centre at Melbourne Uni. So I'm helping him out a bit with some sort of some cultural context to a short film he's doing for his masters. And I said to him last week when I was talking, I said, "Oh look, I've got a bit of an idea," and I was sort of pitching this idea to him. And once I finished telling him about it, he immediately had all these different ideas that we could do and use, people and spaces. He said, "Look, we finished my thing in May. Once we've done that, we're on to yours, mate. I'm in," he said. So I'm really excited to see how that works out. Again, that's a collaboration that I never knew would have happened. And there's been many of them along the journey. And I suppose the more you do them, in some ways when you first start out, there's an inherent brick wall, which you build yourself, of course, in front of you because you get fearful of things. But as you get more comfortable, learn to get more comfortable with not completely owning a space, but sharing a space with other people, it's really invigorating, really invigorating.
Rodney, I think, and just being on the outside, I feel like a lot of your collaborations in our community are coming together at the moment to fruition.
Yeah.
Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah. Look, there's a sad side of mob achievement, and I'll just put it out there as traditional owners and trying to reclaim your responsibilities, traditional owners. If you're a good leader, you would hope respectfully people afford you the respect, the recognition. So if I think we're trying to re-evolve in that space, I feel very, very fortunate, but also think I'm true to my ancestors' struggle, that we need our symbols, we need our iconography, song, dance embedded back in a landscape, and we're such an infant at that point for my mob. Well, I think for the last 7 years. Now that being said, very broadly, non-traditional owners, other Aboriginal people, are differently important. They're just as important, and I think if we can normalise, and it's a bit like Janet's example, having a gallery on a journey between the train station and visiting the art gallery here, we need to sort of normalise our art and our forms and what that means, so that it is actually more attractive or immediately enticing to others to think, oh, I must have that, because you know what, it is now part of this ancient art, and I can have a piece of that because the people are creating it, and then that becomes one part of many forms of artists and artistry, and we see that here in Central Victoria. There's some brilliant things going on with artisan work and the trials and that sort of stuff. So I think as challenging it is for us at our own individual need moment, I think we're really at the beginning of something brilliant here. If we just maintain that momentum, and there's enough to share with people.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, it's very, very good. We have got just 4 minutes together. Is there anyone who is watching on Facebook that would like to ask a question or share a comment? We would love to hear from you. I have really appreciated this conversation, and I'm just going to have so much to reflect back on and also insert into my own, I suppose, understanding of this place and my creative expression. So thank you so very much. Is there anything big on the cards for you all that we can do a shout out while we've got an audience?
Oh, come to the Beehive.
So we can just waltz on in?
Friday week it will be open.
Okay.
And I think Friday week we're opening Friday, Saturday and Sunday.
All right. Look forward to it.
Is there we experiment at the moment too. Pardon?
I was going to say on social media, is there a link?
It will be. There will be information about that up, yes.
Great. All right. Well, we'll make sure everyone follows.
And also, there is upstairs and there is a lift. So,
great.
Just in case.
Thank you.
And I will be fulfilling, over the next month, I will be fulfilling all the Christmas orders. My wife and I will be busy filling all the Santa sacks, hopefully. So we can make some money and maybe go on a little holiday at the end of January or early February. So that's about as exciting as it gets for me. So my wife, as you can see in the background, when we finish, she'll be saying, when we get home, you've got this, and that to do, and I'll have to get out in the shed and get it done.
So that's like a hint to us all to check out Mick's website and his gorgeous products. You will be amazed. I surely was when I had a look. Rodney, anything exciting to finish off with that's coming up you'd like to share?
We fared extremely well in the budget, the Jar Jar Warendj, and we just hope part of our business model, and it's not necessarily arts, that we afford 80% of that as a return to Central Victoria to the benefit, of all Victorians that choose to live and visit here. I wanted to give a gift to Janet and Mick, and I hope they don't mind that they're masters in the true sense. And for others, I think to be able to seek yous out and to be able to, I'll say it in a polite way, like acquire, the products of your creativity would be brilliant, and you deserve that. So that's the only way artists can get on. If we don't support and purchase and acquire, then what can you do?
That's exactly right. Yes.
Thanks, Rodney.
Very true. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you so much to our audience. I do need to do a little shout out for the Emporium Creative Hub. I understand that they're open to take bookings if you're interested in co-working. I am spending today and tomorrow in here. It's just fabulous to be around other creatives. You can join the Emporium Creative Facebook page, and there's also a networking event coming up. And as you've heard, networking is so important if you're a creative and in
Absolutely.
business. And what else? You might learn something new and find out something you didn't know about yourself. So thank you, Rodney Carter. What an honour. Thank you so much, Mick Harding. I hope our paths cross again. And Janet Bromley, I'm going to be up there in your studio very shortly.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
To see you. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Yes.
Thanks.